Hey guys, I hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to part 4.4.3 of our Intro to Python series. Recall that we went through some basic method or function creation, passing values to the functions, calling the functions, and returning some operation done on the values that we've been passing into our function. So today we're going to focus on our basic login.py, our basic login app. And we're going to simply apply what we've learned with function creation, um, conditionals, and returning results uh, within our code. So here, let me get rid of this. All right, so we're going to create one function called validate username. That's going to take an argument of username. Put a little comment here. And we're going to create def validate password. Take an argument of password. And we're going to turn a verdict for this one as well. So our verdict is going to be whether true or false. And we're going to get into Boolean stuff later on. But for this tutorial, all you need to know is we're going to return true or false to what we got going on in our in our while statement. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to create two initial Boolean values. I'm going to say get username equals true, get password equals true. So within our while loop, we're going to be checking the status of these two variables and making decisions based on their status. So if get username and get password are true, then we're going to prompt to get the username and the password. If get username is true but get password is false, we're only going to request the username. If get username turns out to be false and get password turns out to be true, then we're going to skip the username and ask the user for the password again. So validate username, we're going to basically do what we've done here and just check if the length of username is greater than or equal to minimum username length, then verdict equals false, meaning we don't need to check the username again if the user has satisfied the length requirement for the username. Else, and the only other case is if the user did not satisfy the minimum length. Verdict equals true. Okay, now for the password, we're going to say if length password is greater than or equal to the minimum password length, verdict equals false. Else, verdict equals true. So we're going to get rid of all this. And we're going to create a few more conditionals. Check the status of getting username and password. So if get username and get password, meaning if we have to get the username, if get username is true and get password is true, then we need to get both items. So remember our input function that's built into Python for username and for getting the username and password. All right, else if get username, if not get username, meaning this checks if get username is false. So the not will actually, like I said, check if the condition is false. Else if not get username and get password. So don't confuse this and. So when you throw an and or you throw an or in here, the following code is a brand new condition. So this condition, uh, this on this side, everything on the right hand side of the and boolean, uh, the not does not get applied to it. So the not is only trying to see if this get username value is false. And when we say and get password, it's checking if get password is true. So if get password is true, then we're going to ask for the password again. Else, if not get password, so the password, if get password is false, but get username is true, then username equals input, enter a username. And else, if each of these statements are passed, meaning this is false, this is all false. Oh, my mouse is acting up. And this is all false. Then we want to break the program because that means if each of these are false, then that means both the username and password are good. The user satisfied the requirement. Let me just make sure I've got everything I think I need. Let's go to our terminal. Make sure you've changed the directory into the directory that you've saved our basic login.py and simply run it by using Python 3 and the name of our Python program. So enter a username, I'm going to say Elijah. Enter a password, I'm going to say password. Okay, that's not right. Ah, yes, I see what happened. So we have to make sure if get username and get password. Okay, that's true. Else if not get username. Okay, I completely forgot to make sure that we checked. So call our functions to check the username and password compliance. I am so sorry about that, guys. Completely forgot about that. So remember how we call our functions. We simply write the name of the function and we throw in the parameters. And the parameters for our validate username function is just the username, and the validate password function only requires that we throw in the password. So what I'm going to do is, and you may or may not understand this right away, but bear with me. I'm going to say get username is going to be equal to validate username. So looking back at our functions, what we are returning is either false or true. We're creating the verdict variable, and verdict will be equal to false or true, and then we return it here. So if the username doesn't satisfy the requirement, then verdict is going to be equal to true, meaning we want to ask the user to re-enter it. So get username is going to be equal to the result of calling the validate username method, and we're passing in the username that the user entered into our program. Same concept for validate password. So basically, we don't have to do anything crazy within our while loop. Our two functions are taking care of checking if the username or password are valid. So in this case, if the username passes, then get username will equal false. If the username, if the password passes, then get password will also be equal to false. That's just one example. So if get username turns out to be true, but get password turns out to be false, then our while loop is going to go back to the top, and it's going to go straight to the following methods, and it's going to ask for either the username or password again. So let's run this again. Enter username Elijah, password. Okay, so I entered both incorrectly, so the program tells me welcome Elijah. I'm going to run it again, and I'm going to say Eli, which obviously doesn't satisfy our requirement, and password I'm going to let it satisfy. So you see the program immediately went back around and asked me to enter a username. So I'm going to go ahead and enter a valid username, and it cuts off. You see, it doesn't ask me for the password as well, because the only thing that failed was the username. Let's see what happens if we enter a good username the first time, but we fail at the password. It's going to ask me for a password again. If I enter the same password, which isn't a good password, it's going to ask me for the password again. If I do the same thing here, it's going to keep asking me for the password until I put in a good password. And there we go. And let's just do one more where both fail. Say Eli. It's going to ask me for the username and a password as well. So there you have it. I showed you how to create a couple functions and make the functions work for us. Could you imagine having all this code within our while loop, and debugging and going back and testing and seeing where we may have messed up? We have two functions that we can call here very easily. And as you can see, we're not doing too much with them other than calling them and throwing in our parameters, which are username and password. So that's going to be it for this section. I hope you guys learned a little something today. And I can't wait to start on the next one. We're going to talk about some data structures, including lists and dictionaries. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Elijah Reyes. I hope to see you guys in the next one.